Greetings gamers, my name is Anto, and if you've been watching the channel for any length of time, you know that one of my favourite parts about being a game master is the world building side of things, creating worlds from scratch and tracking all of that story across an entire region. Now I've looked at a bunch of different world building tools and aspects of world building in the past, so if you're not subscribed, make sure you are. But today I want to talk to you about a new world building tool that I've come across called MasterScreen. Now the folks at MasterScreen reached out and asked if I'd be interested in taking a look at the video. So this video is sponsored by MasterScreen, but they don't get a say in any of the things that I say and they don't get to see it before it goes out. So you're getting as close as you possibly can to my actual thoughts and feelings about this app. MasterScreen is a browser-based world building and VTT app that allows you to do a whole bunch of stuff, and we're going to get into that, but I'm primarily focused on it being a world building tool, somewhere I can put my map and have my pins and keep track of my world, and not so much from the VTT side of things that we are going to take a look at that. So here we are on the MasterScreen site. You can see there is a little demo reel of what some of the features are. It tells you some of the highlight features of the app. So online first, so you can download all of your project data and load it up, take it across different devices. System agnostic, it does come with some D&D presets, which I'll show off. Markdown based, this is the biggest draw for the app and also one of its biggest weaknesses. We're going to get into that. Advanced tech, built by nerds and entirely free. Now the entirely free element raised some questions for me when I first heard it, so I did ask the team at MasterScreen, what is the payment model here, because nothing stays free forever. And the payment model is there is going to be a market on the app where you can go and sellers can give you pre-generated modules and you can pay for those in the future, and that is their kind of pricing model going forwards, selling things on that market rather than a subscription service. So we're just going to dive straight into it and hit launch here. And when you hit launch, you're going to be greeted with this screen. Up top left here, you're going to see that this is where the market is. At the moment, it's just a bunch of free resources, but like I said, eventually this is where they're going to make their money, by selling market items in this area. Then on the left here, we have our little icon to hide that left panel. This left panel is where all of your entries are stored, so that's where all of your information, all your wiki style information is going to be kept. Up the top right here, you can log in, so let's go ahead and click that. And then once you're logged in, you can create market profiles, so you'll be able to sell stuff on there eventually or make stuff freely available, and it will save some of your details. Down at the bottom of the screen, we have an option to create a new entry. This is for creating wiki style things. Then we have the combat tab, and we're going to cover that in its own little section later in the video. Then we have a dice roller, so if you click on this bit in the middle, you can choose from a bunch of different dice to be able to roll, and when you hit roll, it will roll a 3D dice on the screen, which is quite nice. You've got the search tool to find anything that you've got in your project. Then over on the end here, we have the settings. Now this is where you're going to set up your local file sync. So if we go ahead and hit that, it's going to ask me to save my data somewhere on my PC. So I'm just going to make a new folder here and call it MasterScreen, and then it'll give you a little pop-up asking to be able to view those files. So we just hit view files and save changes, and then everything will back up. So anything that I create now will get saved as a markdown folder, I believe, in that folder on your computer. And it means that if you have some issues or you want to back them up, you can keep all of your data, and because it's all in markdown format, you can take that data and move it somewhere else in the future if you want to. You're not completely bound to this app. Then you've got other options for simulating real dice, showing tutorials, showing the battle map, turning on true sight and dark vision. So true sight lets you see the actual markdown of pages. Then you also have the option to import and export all of your data. Now there is a demo project in here, so you could start by looking through the demo project and seeing what the app is all about. I'm just going to dive in and start creating. That's usually what I do when I get a piece of software or a new app or a new website like this. I have kind of a set of steps that I go through to see what separates it from other applications. So we're just going to dive straight in. So I'm just going to hit right click here, and I don't know any of the controls for this app, so we're going to see how much of it I can intuit without having to go and look things up. So right click here, as I expect, gives us options for entries and folders. I'm going to make a new folder and I'm going to call it the Jewel Cities, which is the region of my world that I'm currently making. You can see here this gives me a new top level element in the entries, the Jewel Cities, and we're going to start off by right clicking on that and hitting new entry. So in this new entry we've got a bunch of different options. We can either make a blank page, we can make a new template which will apply to other pages in the future, or if we go ahead and click in D&D here, we've got a bunch of 5e specific options. We can make a new class or background, new race or monster, spell, feat, item, or full character. Not too fussed about any of that. And then in this other section we've got the GURPS 4e character. Not interested in any of that. I just want to start with a basic entry. So with our new entry here, which is going to be called the Jewel Cities of Talabar. So we've got a little bit of information here up top. Entries consist of fields. By default, every new field is a text field. Every field can be edited by simply clicking on its content. You can use markdown syntax in every text field. To link other entries, use the syntax entry. So let's go ahead and if we click into that, it gives us the markdown of it, so we can start to understand what this all means. So to link to things, we need to do double square brackets, path to entry. So I guess that would be Jewel Cities of Talabar. So let's go ahead and try that. So double square brackets. And if we click out of that, see we have linked the page there that we could in theory click on, but it doesn't actually seem to want to work, maybe because it is in this page. So that's useful to know. Not the most user friendly. I think that I'm not someone that understands Markdown. I don't have a lot of familiarity with it. I'm sure that I could pick it up. There is a little guide here, markdownguide.org, and if we go ahead and click on that, that will give us some tutorials on how to use Markdown. But it would be nice to have some kind of specific Markdown kind of tutorial page on the site, like in that demo folder. Let's go ahead and see if there is one. So no, there isn't. It would be nice if in this demo folder there was a here's how to use Markdown, and it gave you some shortcuts on how to do simple things that you're gonna want to do in a program like this. So bolds, italics, underlines, all the kind of text formatting options, but also how to link to another page, how to write down dice rolling syntax, because I know that you can roll dice from text, but I have no idea how it works. So it would be nice if that existed, just to onboard people who aren't familiar with Markdown and don't want to go off onto another site to learn the whole system, but can just get the basics that they need for the application. Then here it says to edit the field template, click on the field name in the details above. So if we right click just on the text, we have copy path, edit template, reset and delete. And then if we click on the field name, we can click edit template and change that. So our name is details. We can change it from text to set to list to table to map. Okay, so let's go ahead and click a new field, and we're going to call this field map. And then we're going to right click on that, edit template, and change this to be map. And then that gives us a little plus box. And then in this dialog that comes up, we can put an image file. So once our map is loaded in, we can go ahead here and full screen it by clicking on this little icon. That gives us a kind of interface that I'm more familiar with, like the big map that you can just start putting pins on. We use our left mouse button to move things around. We can zoom in and out, and then we use the right mouse button to just drop pins. Now, whenever you click one, you just make a pin immediately. That pin isn't connected to anything, and you can just place them and rename them as you want. So I can rename this as Topaz, and that will just sit there as a pin until we create something for it. But if I go Jewel Cities / Topaz, close off those brackets, you'll see that it's trying to link to something that doesn't exist. But I can now go to my Jewel Cities folder and create a new entry, just create a simple new entry and call it Topaz, which is a thing now. And if we go back here and open up the map, you can see it will allow us to click into Topaz. Something that I'm not a huge fan of is that it takes you off the map immediately. So if I click on the Topaz entry, it will just take me to the page, and then to go back, I don't end up in that full page. So there's more clicks here than I like. It would be nice if clicking on Topaz brought a flyout out or opened like a mini window, something so I could see the information that is located on this page without having to fully go into the page and come back. So that's all well and good. We can add pins to our map, we can add locations. That's really convenient. That's how I like to world build, is have my map and then place all the pins in it. For me, it makes the most sense, and I find that I build much more interesting worlds doing it that way. But you also have the option to just go through and make a whole bunch of entries. So let's go ahead and make a new template. And we're going to call this a location template. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to change this details element. I'm going to change this to be, instead of a text, let's have a table. And then we can add columns. Add column? Add column. Doesn't seem to, oh, that's confusing. It doesn't add any lines, so it's kind of hard to see. So it would be nice to be able to center these things, and I'm sure there's a way that you could probably center them within Markdown, but that's another point where I'm like, I've got this little widget of options here to change it to heading, bold, italicized, strike through, quote, unordered list, and ordered list, and that's great, but it would be nice if there was more context options there for things like a table, if you wanted to change the alignment and stuff. As someone that has no idea how to use Markdown, that would be really nice, but it doesn't change the fact that you can still make a table and put data into it. So let's go ahead and see how much we can change the text here. So we can go into our template here, and let's go ahead and change our text so we can make our text bigger. That's where our alignment is. Okay, so that's fine. We know where the alignment is now. We don't need to worry about it. We can change our color. Let's go for some kind of red. Change our color, that's all good and fine. We can change the border color, excellent. And let's see if we can change fill. Make it absolutely, let's just make it as ugly as we possibly can. And then in advance, effects, I don't know what effects do. Untitled will take off our little title bit. That's really useful if you're making something and you don't necessarily need the title for it. We can lock it and we can make it invisible. I don't know why you'd want to make it invisible, but you can make it invisible. And then if we go ahead and create a new page here, we've got this personal option that's come up, and that'll allow us to create a page from our location template. You can see that it makes the same page, and we can now rename that and carry on as we normally would. So I'm going to get rid of both of those. So something that I want to try out here is how to speed up the process of linking between articles. And when we right clicked on something before, we got that copy link to path. So we're going to try that on this Topaz option here. So we're going to copy link as the option for Topaz. I'm going to load up our map here. And we're going to create a new location, and we're just going to hit paste, and immediately that gives us the path to that page, which means we don't have to remember the Markdown syntax for it. That's really handy. It would be nice to be able to use that with like @ commands. I know in things like Notion and a lot of apps that do allow inter-entry linking, you can just hit the @ key and it will give you like a list of options. That would be nice instead of having to go through the entire path, especially when every entry has to have a unique name, so you wouldn't have to worry about getting them muddled up. If it was just an @ name and it linked to that entry, that would be really good. So before we go into the combat section, let's check out some of the D&D integration that MasterScreen has. So we're going to go into our demo folder here, and we're just going to click on one of the characters, and you can see that there is a character sheet for this character. Let's go ahead and click on Orin. So Orin is a Hill Dwarf cleric. So you can see here we've got a level, race, proficiency, sub-race, experience, class, speed, subclass, whether or not we've got inspiration, which as you would expect is a clickable thing. And then when we click on soldier here, there's a little icon, which I assume means it's not linked up to anything. So let's go ahead and see if we can figure out why that is. So I'm going to figure it's linking to a page that doesn't exist. Page doesn't exist probably because we don't have the SRD installed. So if we go up to the market here, you can get the 5e SRD. We click on that. So everything that's in here so far is monsters, spells, and creatures. So no classes or backgrounds yet, but I presume that this will auto update when you use it. So let's go ahead and hit download on that. And that'll start adding the SRD. So any relevant information from the SRD that is in that document so far, that'll get linked into MasterScreen. We can use that in character class options and all that good stuff, and especially in the combat module, which we'll come to in a minute. So jumping back over to our character sheet here, we can see we've got our options for strength and dexterity and things. Let's just see whether or not these link properly. They do, so they change based on what you put in. You can see my mouse is going absolutely crazy because we're downloading the SRD. We have the armor class, which can be raised or lowered. We can change hit points and remove hit points and things from our characters, which is handy. We have saving throws, and we can click on whether or not we're proficient with them, which changes them and adds our proficiency bonus, which will be up here. So if we change our proficiency bonus to +6 and make ourselves proficient, so that all links up properly. And then we have success and failures on death saves, and those are linked properly as well. Then we have a section for conditions. Now there is no condition camel. These aren't linked in the SRD yet, but if we click on them, it does give us the option to go through and select a condition. So let's just rock with condition camel for now and see whether clicking on that doesn't seem to do anything. So I would have expected, if this was a case of you click on your condition and you choose from the SRD, let's just say paralyzed, I'd expect to be able to click on that and see the entry for paralyzed rather than being prompted to change the condition. And then we've got a section for our abilities, our traits, any magic. We have our actions, so dagger strike +4 to hit, 1d4 +2. Let's click on that and that will roll as a 1d4 +2 for a result of 5. As I mentioned before, you can put in the markdown syntax to roll dice and have it roll dice within the text. I'm not 100% sure of how you do that, but one of the handy things is we can go and we can turn true sight on, and that will give us an immediately overwhelming list of options from here. There it is. So in our actions, we have details, dagger strike, +4 to hit, _ 1d4 +2. So let's go ahead and copy that and then get out of true sight because it's a scary land and we don't want to mess anything up. And let's just go over to another page and just paste that version in, click off it and make sure that it works, which it does. That's probably the biggest thing that I would want to know, is how to set up the syntax for rolling dice. So it seems to be _ and then say 1d20 +5, and that would be an attack roll. And then we click off that and that would give us a d20 roll, +5, 7, perfect. Again, so far my biggest takeaway is I want that markdown list in the app that's going to give you the most common things that you're going to want to know as a role player. So how to link to different pages and how to set up dice roll type stuff. Then as we keep going down, we have all of our information on dark vision. We have all of our skills, which are going to be keyed into our ability scores. And then we have information on our armor, our weapons, our saves, and then our traits and some appearance information. So down here in spellcasting, we have some options for spells, light. Click on that. That is connected to the SRD, and that's going to give us the information on the light spell. That's really handy. Same as in Ray of Frost, Prestidigitation, Disguise Self, and Magic Missile. So in Magic Missile, you click on that, tells you what it does, it gives you information on the level, and it gives you the option to roll your dice. And all of that will bring us neatly into the combat tab. So let's go ahead and click on this combat tab, and immediately it's confusing. Like when I first opened it, I was like, what is going on here? It's an isometric kind of 3D environment that you can create a battle map out of. So let's figure out up here we've got 10 by 10. If we change this, we can increase the size of the playing field to 14 by 14 here. We can add a map. Let's go ahead and add some kind of map here. And we can place a map down. And let's zoom in. I don't know how we change the grid size. Maybe if we make it so that it's the same number of things as the... Yeah, that would be how you do it. I don't know what this map's grid base was, but you set the map to be the same grid as the map, and it should line up. And then you get this 3D map that you can go ahead and place things with. And then you can move your character to places, and you can put down options for walls and things, it seems. So if you right click, it places a square, and then you can move your character on top of that square and show elevation, which is kind of cool. And then, so on our left side here, we've got units in combat. On the right side, we've got the current person who's being activated, it seems. So let's go ahead and add some units. Let's just add an ape. So our ape is white, and we can see that we can change the color of their little token here. Let's change that to green. And then in turn 1, so if we click on the ape, or if we click on the arrow, so the arrow will take us to the ape, and that changes to the ape here. And if we click back on Orin, that changes back to Orin. So we can see the ape's abilities here, and we can move them up to Orin. And let's say we wanted to make an attack. How would we do that? We'd go into actions and we'd use a fist. So I definitely think that this needs to be the syntax of the attacks could be better. So an attack is always 1d20. So if they've got +5 to hit, that syntax should just be 1d20 +5, because then you can roll the attack from that, and then you can show off, yeah, that's going to hit, or is that going to hit? Let's go ahead and click Orin and see what his armor class is. Armor class 16, rolled a 19, so yeah, it's going to hit. We'll go ahead and click our damage here. That's going to take us to 7 damage. So if we click on Orin, we can go ahead and -7 here from that. Takes him down to 3 HP. So it does seem like, at least from the SID point of view, there's a pretty robust VTT option in here. You can load in maps. You can make dynamic grid-based encounters by adding terrain and walls and stuff. So you could, in theory, let's go ahead and make like a corridor. You could, in theory, build out like a dungeon here and create walls and things like that and show your players some options. There aren't any sharing features in MasterScreen at the moment, but you could absolutely load up elements of this into a Discord stream or onto a monitor if you're playing in person, or you could just use it behind the screen if you're playing in person to give you some information about the monsters and be able to roll some of their attacks from that. Or you just ignore the VTT element of it and just use the wiki. And overall, I'm pretty impressed with MasterScreen. There is a lot of potential here. I think there's still a lot that they need to do to make it more user-friendly, especially when it comes to how to tell people how to use the syntax of Markdown to achieve the things that they want to do. Having the true sight option and being able to see the Markdown when you click into options is good for learning how to do it yourself, but giving people access to that, there's a good chance that someone's going to mess something up or delete something that they shouldn't and not understand how to recover that or what it is that they've broken. So having just a basic page in that demo that says, here are just some of the common options. If you want to roll a dice, put it in double underscores. If you want to connect to an existing page within a body of text or in a pin on a map, it's double brackets in the file path. Little things like that are going to go a big way to that initial onboarding, because learning a new system is always a little bit difficult. So making it any more difficult than it needs to be isn't going to help. And I don't think sending off to that Markdown guide site is the best move. It's handy to be like, hey, here's a big list of things that everything you could ever possibly want to know, but If I don't want to know everything that there is to know about Markdown, I just want to know enough to get me started, I want that in the app. But looking at this so far, I think that this is definitely going to become my go-to recommendation when people are looking for a free world building solution. So for a long time now, I have been suggesting OneNote as an option, which is great when it comes to wiki style editing, so a lot of text-based stuff and placing inline images. But the map side of things is just completely unsupported in OneNote, and that has become my go-to method of world building. Now, there are plenty of other options out there that will allow you to place a map in and put pins and stuff in, but most of those are paid options. Having MasterScreen be a free option, certainly for now before the market really kicks off, it's a great alternative to go, hey, you don't need to do any initial outlay, you don't have to download anything. The SRD is in there, or at least is growing in there, so you're going to have a lot of the common options that you would usually go off to D&D Beyond for, all within that app. So having it as its own closed ecosystem, you've got all the world building tools, you've got a grid combat tool, the dice roller, and the SRD all in there, means that if you are looking to play 5th edition and you don't want to spend any money, this is an amazing option, and I'm really excited to see how the app grows over time. I'd love to know what you think of MasterScreen. Let me know down in the comments below, and if you're interested in the way that I will build, check out this video which goes through my process of building a sandbox world. But until next time, happy gaming.